recording. Good. Welcome to our Bucky weekend call on October 29, 30, depending on which continent you're on. And we're getting a new topic tonight. We're looking at a new book from Bucky called Grunch of Giants. And it's a continuation of this theme of design discipline, Oblivion or Utopia. And at least that's what the word is. So that's where we're moving in that direction. And Susan, glad to see you here tonight. How are you feeling and what is your expectation for the call tonight?
I'm pleased to be with you. And I'm afraid next week I have a conflict. So I want to learn as much as I can. Man, do I love Grunch of Giants. It was such a nice time when I read it after we'd done 2 years as a group getting through Critical Path. And it was nice to have something kind of flow. And it was, I think it's almost about as concise as Bucky gets. So I'm excited to have a greater richness of it together. Manu, how do you feel and what are you looking for today?
I'm feeling good, Susan. Welcome back to the ladies. And really what I expect is that we use this to start on the real problems that we're facing as human today, our society is facing. And they are quite prominent. And I hope that discussing this, we're going to be able to kind of try to understand what's going on. That's my expectation. And how do you feel? What do you expect?
Hi, Manu. Hi, good to see you, Susan. And okay, as usual, glad to be here. I won't be able to make it next week. I'm gonna be I tried to look for the Grunch of Giants, and I couldn't find even the copy of it, you know. So, but anyway, yeah, what do I expect to get out of today? I'm looking forward to, I think one of the reasons why we chose Grunch of Giants is to see his thoughts and his not observations, his experiences, almost 30 years after he wrote the earlier books in the 60s. And I wanted to see, I'm looking forward to see what has changed, what has evolved, or you know, what else he observed from what he wrote in the 60s, you know. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And the other is, I just also want to find out, does anybody know how Kelly is doing? Yeah. So, but I'll pass this on to Joe first. Joe, how do you feel and what do you expect to take away today?
I feel pretty good. Actually, very grateful that just had that break there for a moment. I went downstairs. My mother actually was having trouble breathing, so so the timing couldn't have been any better. So I was able to help her get through that. So I'm grateful for that. I'm excited about starting this book. I think that this is, you know, as we discussed last week, this is kind of the natural follow-on to Utopia and Oblivion. As you know, well, I mean, I don't know if it's natural, but it's our follow-on to Utopia and Oblivion. So I have not read the book, so I'll be, you know, experiencing everything will be new to me. But I'm excited about learning it with this group as always, and excited about starting another adventure. Manu, did you go yet?
Yes, I've been.
Okay, Steve, how do you feel and what are you looking to get out of today?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. Like everybody, I'm excited about this new book we're starting, and I really appreciate both Susan and Anne gave a perfect introduction. I mean, the idea that this book is written 20, as I understand it, 20 years later than design discipline, which prophesied a lot of things, but within 20 years, some of those things had come to pass. And also within 20 years, obviously things went off course for a way. And there we have evidence in the first opening introductory paragraph, because there's actually some hyphenated words. So instead of just putting strings of words together and then having us figure out which ones are connected, he actually hyphenated some words in order to help us read what he had connected in mind. So I think that's wonderful. And I'm also convinced we are in an absolute craziest of times. I mean, our elections are happening all over the world right now. Brazil's going through some stuff. America, our elections are in 10 days, depending on where you are. And I mean, it's absolute insanity. You guys heard about some guy with a hammer breaking into Nancy Pelosi's house, looking for her to beat her up, and couldn't find her, so she beat up her 82-year-old husband. I mean, what the hell? It's like total chaos.
It is.
It's just people are, and I think part of it is, well, I think mass media is the issue, but I'm a big fan of people like Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro and Russell Brand. But I think that I think Russell Brand more than anybody points to solutions. But a lot of these guys, Dave Chappelle, Joe Rogan, they're great at telling jokes about the world, but very little is given to anybody on how to be civically responsible. So this is very concerning to me. I had a civics class when I was in high school, but America hasn't been teaching civics for 20 years. And so nobody seems to know what the responsibility is for being a citizen in a democratic society, or a democratic republic society, as America is supposed to be. So, let's hope there's some solutions here, and God bless truth. God bless compassion and self-compassion as we move ahead in the future. There was my editorial statement. Thank you for. But so let's go ahead and proceed. And John isn't here, so Joe is here. The way we have this is a Kindle book that Joe was kind enough to. He's our benefactor tonight. He sent me this book, and it's split into 2 parts. So each page has 2 parts. So we start on the left and then read to the right.
Oh, wonderful.
So, yeah. So Joe, if you want to start on the left and then read the first column, and then drop onto the right, we're on our way.
Sure. Forward. There exists a realizability, evolutionary alternative to our being, either atom bombed into extinction or crowding ourselves off the planet. The alternative is the computer-persuadable veering of big business from its weaponry fixation to accommodation of all humanity at an aerospace level of technology, with vastly larger, far more enduringly profitable for all, entirely new World Livingry Service Industry. It is statistically evident that the more advanced the living standard, the lower the birth rate.
Okay, let's pause there. When I said at least he hyphenated some words, I didn't want to insinuate that he's any less easy to comprehend.
Right.
He's obviously talking about over here, the alternative is the computer-persuadable veering of big business from weaponry into livingry. That's his kind of punchline. And I think he kind of created the word livingry, but of course he's referring to the military industrial complex, and somehow using computer assisted technology so that we switch this. We have an aerospace level of technology that's supposed to actually help human beings live. So that's how I try to explain what I just read. Any other comments or questions on that? And he also describes the birth rate as an issue.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
What is interesting is that currently we have people touting the 3 options. There's a threat of atomic pulverizing this planet of ours. Nana. There are some guys that are thinking that they can escape, you know, in space somewhere. But anyway, and then there is the alternative that is talking about, but the danger is that it's being captured completely, and it's difficult. But hopefully more and more people are getting to be aware of the challenges and of the possibilities. And that's our hope. Because I mean, today, a mobile phone is ubiquitous.
Mhm.
You can find it everywhere. So people can communicate. And things are said. True, there's a lot of fake news, but there's also a lot of mass news that exposes misdeeds, misappropriations, and so forth.
Cool. Comments, questions?
And Steve, you say the lower birth rate is an issue. And Bucky seems to be thinking that it is evolution.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to read more about it as we go because this italic is kind of an introduction. Interestingly enough, this book was written or published in 1983, so nearly 20 years after Oblivion and Utopia. And the Berlin Wall came down in 1989.
Yeah.
And the threat of being bombed into oblivion kind of receded then after the Berlin Wall came down, right? Until the Ukrainian war. And suddenly Putin's talking about using nuclear weapons. Of course, not atom bombs or hydrogen bombs or plutonium bombs, but he's talking about using toaster-sized clean explosions that are huge. But we're talking now, suddenly we have this threat of nuclear war again. Isn't that interesting?
Bucky died in
Interesting also that was 1983, he died.
Yeah.
So I consider this book as a sum total of his hypothesis, his experiment of that hypothesis, and the lessons that is drawing from them. Susan, sorry.
I was saying the exact same thing. He died in 83. So these are his last words out, as far as I know.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Any other comments or questions on our opening here? Okay, Joe, there we go.
It is essential that anyone reading this book know that at the outset that the author is apolitical. I was convinced in 1927 that humanity's most fundamental survival problems could never be solved by politics. 1927 was the year when a human first flew alone across an ocean in one day. This was the obvious beginning of the, wait for it, swift integration of all humanity, groups of whose members for all their previous millions of years on planet Earth had been so remotely deployed from one another that they existed as separate nations with ways of life approximately unknown to one another. It was obvious that the integration would require enormous amounts of energy. It was obvious that fossil fuels were exhaustible. It was obvious that a minority of selfish humans would organize themselves to exploit the majority's transitional dilemmas. I was convinced that within the 20th century, all of humanity on our planet would enter a period of total crisis. I could see that there was an alternative to politics, its ever more wasteful, wearing, and inherently vain attempts to solve one-sidedly all humanity's basic economic and social problems.
Comments, questions?
How will you, in terms of dualities or in terms of relationship, qualify energy and data, or energy flow and data flow.
That's interesting. Have you gotten any of the YouTube things on this new quantum transportation, quantum cryptology, the new quantum experiments? The three guys just won the Nobel Prizes for. One of the issues is a thing called pilot theory. There are like 4 or 5
What theory?
Pilot theory. Pilot theory.
Like pilot.
Pilot. P-I-L-O-T.
Okay.
Pilot theory. Put out by David Bohm, but never got any traction until lately. The idea was that there's a field, and there's an actual particle, multiple particles moving on multiple fields. And I don't know why I brought that up, but I thought that had something to do with what you were kind of mentioning in terms of probabilities.
He said quantifying the flow of data and quantifying the flow of energy.
Yeah, of energy. So evidently I was comparing the energy, the flow of energy and the particle to the datum that was on the energy field. Somehow I saw the parallel there.
I'm just
Also
saying
the
because
parallel.
data is metaphysical, right?
Right.
Or tend to be metaphysical. I wouldn't say that with.
You think data is metaphysical?
I do.
Yeah.
A
And energy is physical. And we define ourselves as transceivers.
See, this is so weird because, I see energy as the metaphysical basis for all matter. That all matter is energy, and therefore, matter is material and physical, and the energy that comprises it is metaphysical. So, wow, our language, there's just no words to describe this. We're in a black hole.
No, Steve, think about a sine wave function. Think about your electromagnetic fields. So I think I do also think like you often that energy is metaphysical until the moment that it turns into matter.
Yeah.
So I see that almost like a sine wave curve with an event horizon in the middle, but it's happening at 90 degrees to data. And I would not have picked data out of that menu. So thank you. That's really something different to think about.
Let me just put a spanner into your energy is metaphysical. Why is it not just phased?
Wait a minute. Energy is physical.
Yeah, it's physical. It's just what Susan was describing there is phased.
But I think in
So
some
when you don't see it or sense it is another phase. But it is still that 360 degrees. The other part, data, maybe. I'm just titillating your brains here. I don't know, but
I'm just beginning to grapple with a thinkable set, and I've come to some real revelations over the last week. And now my mind has just been blown again because I thought I understand what energy and matter. I mean, I understand. That's why I brought up the David Bohm thing, is because this idea of like, did matter evolve from energy, or and consciousness? Did matter evolve from consciousness, or does consciousness evolve from matter? And I've been dealing with that all week long. So now my mind is blown again.
Snake eating its tail again. So we get the phase. It's phased depending on where the observer stands.
Yeah. And it's phased especially if I go to 720 degrees, because my experience, the concave experience, is 360. And then I have 360 convex experience, which may be subvisible. And
I think it by definition it's subvisible.
Subvisible, right? Exactly. And so, is that metaphysical? Is subvisible metaphysical, or is metaphysical something else?
let me take it to you, Steve. You've always said individual is nodal, right?
That what? Yeah. The
Yes,
individual
that you are the
is
center of universe everywhere that you are.
Yeah, so let's be clear. You
Okay.
said- I say the individual is nodal, N-O-D-A-L. In other words, I'm the dot.
Yes.
Okay,
So
good.
if you are the dot, you are the dot between the physical and the metaphysical in you.
Sure. And I had a vision about the dot this week. I had a major epiphany about the dot and how the dot relates to this to the circles of irrelevancy. And I actually saw 3D in my head. I was picturing 3D or 4D circles of irrelevancy. And I actually sent an email to my graphic artist to say, can you produce this?
So can we generalize by saying that energy that comes to you
Yeah.
is gravitational, and so that you can wrap around it? So you have a funnel like this, coming, energy is coming here, is gravitational. Now goes through you, and what you call, okay, you have data, you know, the transmission, the transmitter is convex going out, but there is also at that node a bubble, bubbling, a friction. That is your storing of energy in your brain, in a memory, in order to release it later as data.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
So-
just trying, I'm here, I'm just,
Yeah, you're just
letting it
being a
go.
little topological, trying to blow our brains. And that's why you said a while ago, just a minute ago, you said that a human being is a transceiver.
yes,
And you're bringing in this gravity thing, brings something to me, and then I transmit it out again.
yes.
Then
And
I
while transmitting,
radiate.
while considering some is store, and I think is a friction of transmission that you store, that goes around like this,
Yeah,
bubbling around you, and
making a dot, making that node.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And it will be released later because it cannot stay in that. It always in flow.
yeah. Cool. Any comments or questions on that? In
No,
fact,
I
I have
really,
a-
I
go
like,
ahead.
I just like where this conversation's going. I mean, it's, and how you guys are able to pull out these concepts just from those couple paragraphs. It was really,
Well, a couple paragraphs and a couple years of looking at synergetics and arguing about it and trying to figure out what the heck it means. Yeah. But I just saw, the circle of irrelevancies. I saw that as the dot. In other words, take all those circles. That's the node. That's the dot. Because there are parts that are so small and so infrequent, or so small and so infrequent that I can't comprehend or apprehend them. Then there's something that's tantalizingly small and almost relevant. Then there's relevant. And that's my dot. But inside my dot is all this almost relevant and not relevant because it's so slow or so small. And then as
Are
I
you
move
sure?
out, go ahead.
Can I show you this?
Yeah, please. And if you guys know how to, you can pin Manu's you can pin his screen as the
or you
whole
can go to
screen.
galleries, you can go to speaker view.
Yeah, speaker view and gallery. Thank you, Joe. Perfect.
Yes. Can you see
Oh my
this?
gosh, there's a torus.
Yes. But you see the black? The black
Yes.
is energy always flowing. And the red is like what I've called data. It's hitting.
Yeah, I'm seeing a picture of a black hole with energy streaming out the top and streaming out the bottom.
Yes.
And everything around the black hole is being sucked in, but out through the top and bottom is coming something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's the kind of representation that I just had now.
Yeah, it's actually, I remember one specific graphic that, and I'll try and find it, send it to everyone, is that Kelly had put together. When he talked about, basically where we stand and how energy flows around us. And it looked very similar to that graphic. but it also talked about how I hate to say, I think it was actually money flows, essentially, how money was energy.
But you
If I
can
find it,
see, the bow tie of the black ones. Energy flows, energy always flows, energy flows to the line of this resistance. But there is a conjugate of energy that's always in there. Is that energy flowing, there is something else. That is meta of that. It's some data. Some, data scientists, they just put digits.
Here,
And this doesn't follow laws of energy, because data, you can put it the way you want, you can add it the way you want, it's never ending.
does that look about the same thing as what Manu was holding up?
Yeah.
That's a
And then,
picture of a black
you
hole.
have that's why, yes, that's going,
Yeah. So there's you can see the torus in there, or the double or triple torus. Everything spinning around, energy coming out the top and the bottom, and everything being sucked in around that black hole. Thank you for letting me share that. I was thinking of a different picture, but there we go. And that very diagram of the infinity symbol, that lazy 8, that was actually in some of the videos that I saw this week about quantum entanglement. Okay, let's continue. Any other comments or questions? Okay, let's continue.
is it that alternative, I believe, right?
Yeah, I do believe you're right. And I'm going to start putting in a marker when we're done.
That alternative was through invention, development, and reduction to the physically working stages of mass production prototypes of each member of a complete family of intercomplementary artifacts, structurally, mechanically, chemically, metallurgically, electromagnetically, and cybernetically, designed to provide so much performance per each ERG of energy, and pound of material, and second of time invested as to make it eminently feasible.
Sorry, hang on. I was getting ready to and I lurched ahead. Go ahead.
Eminently feasible and practical to provide a sustainable standard of living for all humanity, more advanced, pleasing, and increasingly productive than any ever experienced or dreamed of by anyone in all history. It was clear that this advanced level could be entirely sustained by the many derivatives of our daily income of sun energy. It was clear that it could be attained and maintained, there we go, by artifacts that would emancipate humans from piped, wired, and metered exploitation of the many by the few. This family of artifacts leading to such comprehensive human success I identified as Livingry, in contradistinction to politics weaponry. I called it technologically reforming the environment instead of trying politically to reform the people. Equally important, I set about 55 years ago, 1927, to see what a penniless, unknown human individual with a dependent wife and newborn child might be able to do effectively on behalf of all humanity in realistically developing such an alternative program. Being human, I made all the mistakes there were to be made, but I learned to learn by realistic recognition of the constituent facts of the mistake making, and attempted to understand what the uncovered truths were trying to teach me.
Any comments or questions? He
Um,
kind of identifies livingry up there.
yeah, that's the most important part. In fact, you may even want to highlight that.
So I
And
identified
Steve, I
living.
just sent you guys the PDF of the book.
Oh, sweet.
Wonderful. That'll be so much easier to handle.
Yeah,
than-
you know what? Can we read the PDF as opposed to reading this side by side?
Yeah, we can. Let's have a conversation. Any comments about livingry as opposed to weaponry? Any comments while I look for that and get it loaded up?
I've always found it interesting that Bucky seemed to index a lot of things in terms of humanity's development around metallurgy. That was really one of his key things that he made comments on in Critical Path, talking about Bronze Age, brass, kind of moving and using the metals as almost like a derivative measurement of what humans were capable of doing technologically.
Interesting.
Well, Susan, if you look at it in reality, all the experiments of the world has been to use, metals are like catalysts. So during the Big Bang, everything was just pulverized. And there's been slow and slow accumulations in places. There have been accumulation in places. And the metaphysical of knowledge, the science, the alchemy of trying to put them back together to create the effect that way, it has been the quest. So if you look at metals, especially some precious metals and some rare metals, act as catalyst or conduit. Can call also a catalyst like the venom of a reaction, a fast venom. So you inject some stuff in a system that goes in and change it dramatically. All right? And so that's what had been. So it's been the experiment of alloys. I have carbon, I have iron. What proportion do I mix the two to make steel? And in varying the proportions, it is more and more of tweaking the performance towards a desire like strength or flexibility, strength or flexibility, and then or ductility if that's what you want. And then also, maybe if I inject a little bit of this and that, you can see really quantum jump. Is like particles jumping from one state of energy to another with different characteristics. And that has been the quest. That's the only tool that we have. And we do it by experimenting. There's no theory that we have had that has explained everything that we can do. We're always fumbling, trying the help of experience and generalizing until we no more test it through. Then we revise and we do, or we go a completely new alley of exploration. And that's what Bucky referred to in the first paragraph as scientifically, the computer, what did he say? Scientifically
Persuadable.
Persuadable.
Persuadable. Yeah.
Persuadable. That was the word.
Well, there's an interesting, I was listening to one of the podcasts while I was trying to find something for Steve last week, and using machine learning. I don't know if I really want to call it artificial intelligence, but
Right.
the computer can predict pharmaceutical molecules which might have particular actions. And this these folks who were just trying to put together a presentation came up with like 440 amazingly deadly compounds that you know were theoretically proposed by the machine learning, and yet it's not that hard to go into a lab and try and figure out how to put them together, because now the machine can give us the proportions. So that can be used for good as well as bad, for sure.
Right.
But it's interesting because we're starting to bring some of the efficiencies, I think, of the computer modeling. And I'm hopeful that it will bring us to more livingry and not just be used for weaponry. But
Oh, I see another
That's a
point
great
there, Susan.
example.
But I see another point there too, Susan. In other words, the human being did not have to think about all those possible combinations. The machine learning or artificial intelligence could make a list, and now the human being just said evaluate which ones are practical or which ones are buildable based on our present knowledge. So on the one hand, it was a crutch. On the other hand, it saves some time. I don't know.
a ton of time. I mean, when you look at what happened in industry, like as Manu was saying about, I need to have the metal for this situation. I need this material to be super strong. I need it to withstand this type of forces, but I needed to have this amount of conductivity, whatever. I mean, we were the whole idea of Edison trying to find the filament for the light bulb, which was thousands. I think it was 20,000 experiments.
Yeah, some bunch.
Yeah. So the rate of acceleration has been accelerating. And we could use it for livingry.
Yeah, we could.
Actually, book I know that I think Manu has read is the future is faster than we think. It will be here faster than we think. Talks about these very topics. The acceleration of technology.
Cool. Any other comments or questions? I'm so delighted that Susan sent the PDF file. It's so much more easier to handle. And look, here's an introduction that was not found in the Kindle version. So let's backtrack just for a minute and read the introduction, if you care to do so, Joe.
Oh,
You
sure.
gotta wonder if I can do something technological. Woo!
No kidding.
Susan, are you sending to everybody or just to Steve?
I
Just to
sent
me.
to you and Joe, and I wasn't sure your email address. So Steve, if you have that, if you can pop that over to Dan.
Next time I stop the screen, I will do that in the background. Anne and Manu will get it.
No, I sent it to Manu.
Oh, you did? I'll send it to Anne.
And it's actually in your email box. I just sent it to you.
Oh.
And it's in your email box. So now you have it too.
Thank you very much.
You
Problem.
betcha. So here's an introduction that I hated to miss because it mentions ladies. Joe, you want to start reading introduction?
Sure. Grunch of Giants by Buckminster Fuller. Introduction. I dedicate this book to 3 women, one of the 19th and 2 of the 20th centuries. First, to my great aunt, Margaret Fuller Asuli, who with Ralph Waldo Emerson co-edited the Transcendentalist magazine, The Dial, and was the first to publish The Row, and herself authored woman in the first authored woman in the 19th century. I'm sure Margaret would probably and probably does join in my enthusiastic support of co-dedication of this book to Marilyn Ferguson, author of the Aquarian Conspiracy, and to Barbara Marx Hubbard, founder of the Committee for the Future for the Effective Inspiration of the Young World to do its own thinking and to act in accordance therewith. Anybody?
Comments or questions?
It's interesting that,
Kudos to our 2 women here.
yes.
I'll have to
Kudos.
put down the Aquarian Conspiracy, and I love it because one of the books I'm moving through right now is on it's a biography of Madame Blavatsky, and I have a new friend that was raised in a theosophical society. And so you start pulling in Ralph Waldo Emerson and Thoreau as being huge influences on the extended family of Bucky. And you can see this intellectual heritage of Western esotericism that, you know, always felt like it was probably there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then he mentions a foreword here and evidently chapter outlines. And I guess we'll go back to where we were and pick that up. I've just got to get my cursor back to me. And then we'll be back to
I think we're below.
operating as usual. There we go. We left off to reform people. And if you recall on the Kindle version, there was a footnote. And now the footnote is here. So Joe, if you want to read from I Explain, then we'll get the footnote involved in it as well.
I explained that concept in great detail in the latter part of this book. I also alluded to elucidated it in my book Critical Path, published in 1981 by St. Martin's Press. Equally important, I set about 55 years ago, 1927, to see what penniless unknown human individual with dependent wife and newborn child might be able to do effectively on behalf of all humanity in realistically developing such an alternative program. We read this already, but I'll just finish it again. Being human, I made all the mistakes that were to be made, but I learned to learn by realistic recognition of the constituent facts of mistake making and attempted to understand what the uncovered truths were trying to teach me. In my Philadelphia archives, there are approximately 40,000 articles published during the last 60 years, which successfully document my progressive completions of the whole intercomplementary family of scheduled artifacts. These Livingry items include the following: tensegrity. Tensegrity. The continuous tension, discontinuous compression structuring principle of the universe, i.e. stars not touching planets, electrons not touching their atomic nuclei, introduced to the planet Earth to replace the continuously compressioned, secondarily tensioned, structured in present world around engineering theory, design 1929, prototype 1929. The Dymaxion house, the autonomous mass producible air deliverable dwelling machine weighing only 3% of its equal volumed and equipped conventional counterpart single family dwelling, design 1927, modeled 1928, helicopter delivered in 1954. The one-piece 250-pound bathroom, design 1928, prototype 1936, mass-produced in polyester fiberglass in Western Germany in 1970. Synergetics exploration and publishing of the four-dimensional geometrical coordinate system employed by nature. See Synergetics and Synergetics 1 he meant. Synergetics and Synergetics 2. New York Macmillan, 1975, discovered 1927, published 1944. So this goes into just all his discoveries and some of it. The Dymaxion house, the one piece 250-pound bathroom I wasn't even aware of.
Comments or questions before we leave the page?
Yeah, I have a question. The Dymaxion house, what happened to it? Why did it take off?
What?
The Dymaxion house.
Why
I think I saw some pictures of that. Why didn't it take off? You know, like
big business.
Is that the
Sorry?
only reason?
The guilds of electricians and plumbers and city councilmen that got to give permits were reluctant to have their opportunity to extract wealth be around ended. The military ended up being the end user, I think, Manu, if I got this right, so that they could kind of use some of those prototypes to drop in to a military field. That's what I recall.
Mhm.
But but you just now are starting, and he talked about the gestational period of some of these different industries. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think he said 75 years for construction and 50 years for education. But there's a table in Critical Path where he estimates what he thinks it's going to be the time frame for adoption for some of these different categories.
Thank you.
I think I can pull up some pictures of the Dymaxion house and share them because I'd never heard of it before.
Oh, I've got
I've seen pictures of it. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep.
There's his Dymaxion house.
What does it look like?
That looks like a Taurus,
Igloo.
an igloo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a while to get used to seeing it. That's for sure.
You know,
Yeah.
there was a time in Utah where there was a bunch of cement domes being built. Not a bunch. There was one giant skating rink that was built as a cement dome. And then there were a couple of homes that were built as cement domes in Utah, you know, avant-garde, but they couldn't get financed. So if anybody bought one, they had to pay cash for it. It's kind of like what Susan said. If you create an idea or product, it takes, and what Bucky is saying, it takes decades to get the system to move to a place where it's ready to incorporate something like this.
But look at what is written here.
What's
A
that?
house is a machine for living in.
Yeah.
Now, look at the concept of house that we have. Is not a machine to live in. Definitely. I'm
Well,
talking
would
about
you-
the house that we have today. Is somewhere to sleep. Is not to live.
You're
We go to
saying,
live. Well, I mean, we go to work somewhere.
This looks
We
like a yurt.
we spend the majority of our time out of the house, isn't it?
Yeah. This
I'm-
kind of looks like a yurt. Go ahead.
I really love the Earth ships, and some of them, well, they don't talk so much about being a machine. They really are integrated machines for Livingry. Capturing the sun, recycling the water, growing the food.
Here's kind of evidence of what Susan was saying about the military, picking up on his design and using his designs.
It is deployable easily. And second, you know, that what is, let's call it the excrement of living in are used for the purposes of energy creation and some other stuff.
I've helped build a yurt and slept in a yurt in my time. And they're amazingly efficient. You put a heat burning stove in the middle of them and everything's heated relatively quickly. So that's a little bit about the Dymaxion house.
it's interesting because I don't know if we ever just can even get our heads around changing.
I remember going to see in Tomorrowland in Disneyland back in 1959, maybe 1958. I remember seeing the House of the Future, and I think it was round. I think it was designed after Buckminster Fuller's thing. Maybe I'll do a search when we're not looking for House of Tomorrow in Disneyland 1959. That'd be fun. Okay, let's go back to continue reading. Any other comments or questions?
So
I'm
when,
just putting here that credit and debt have been substituted for housing. That's the reality of today. So when Buckminster Fuller talk about weaponry, it's not only killing, pulverizing, it is killing other ways. Debt is crushing people all around the world. It's not American, it's not European, it's not African, it's all over. All over.
Well, that kind of gets to what he was saying in the beginning, how there are only a few that are looking to exploit the many, or essentially that's what he said. How a few will, come together in order to, I forget what its exact wording was, essentially. To, basically
take advantage of
take,
the
yeah,
rest of the friction that the rest of us are having to move through, the transitional dramas. But even in housing, it's like, I don't know why, it's one of the things that I love spending time with. On YouTube, you'll find some cool things where people have taken to building their house inside a geodesic dome, and you can take advantage of huge efficiencies in terms of temperature control. And then I've got a couple other books on the shelf that are far too technical. They're Bucky books, but they're too technical. But if you were to have an inner dome and a transparent outer dome and an inner dome, but both of Bucky's geodesics, and you put a wind turbine on the top, there will be a temperature gradient that will create energy.
Wow.
Just by putting one inside the other. And if I had enough money in my life to just be able to play around and build that stuff on my property, someday maybe.
What column will you use? I mean, to have a good gradient, you need some color.
Right.
You need to, the turbine will be sucking air, and
so I think the most efficient you could have would be, the darker color would absorb more of the sun, and the transparent outer would allow that light energy to come through. There's just so many ways you can apply it. You could still put your same standard little tiny house in the middle of it, or as a full-size house if you like.
I found the House of Tomorrow at Disneyland.
well, no,
Okay, and it wasn't quite round. It was roundish with divisions in it.
No.
And wouldn't you know that it got usurped by Monsanto of all people? Oh my gosh. And now here's some different pictures of the layout. I don't think I'm going to get those to come up. And then, oh, maybe I am. Oh, no, I'm not. I don't want to do that. It's trying to sell me some bathtubs. Okay.
Nice.
Matt, that's what happens with the internet, right? It turns into the giant commercial. Okay, so here's another picture of the house. You can see it's kind of roundness. And then the outside, and then here's another picture. I remember walking through this house, and I can tell you right now, I remember there was a bathroom with a giant hot tub in it, and then there are these electrodes there on a dummy, and instead of exercising, all you'd have to do is put on electrodes and it would expand, it would make your muscles contract, so you wouldn't have to exercise.
Yeah, there's electrostim suits you can wear right now, and they really overamp your whatever exercise you do.
Yeah. Here's a picture of the house. It wasn't really a circle, was it? It had a square thing in the middle with, rounded quarter sections around the sides. I remember walking through this house. I'm not kidding you. There's that super duper futuristic couch, right? And there's that futuristic television, and there's the futuristic home stereo. Remember that? I mean, this was 1959, so like this was
yeah.
And there was the Matador, or the what's the Swiss mountain called?
Matterhorn.
The Matterhorn, not the Matador. There's the Matterhorn. I went on that roller coaster ride in that was the ultimate roller coaster on the planet back in 1959. A little bit more
Wow.
on the house. In fact, I'm not surprised that it wasn't me and my mom and my brother in that picture there walking around that house. Sorry to be so. Oh my gosh, there's even a little video here. Should we try and see what that? No, it's not really a Dymaxion house. So let's continue reading.
I found a Dymaxion car. That's the first time I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We showed the Dymaxion car a couple of weeks ago. You
Mm.
weren't on the call. Yeah, there's a Dymaxion car. It was a
Yeah,
three-wheel.
three wheels.
Three
Three-wheel
wheels.
car.
Somebody tragically died, I think, in
Yeah, it
Oh.
wasn't very stable. If you find there, you'll see a video on the Dymaxion car, and it doesn't go much over 35 or 45 miles an hour without being unstable. But it was designed like the current Airstream trailers. If you look at an Airstream trailer, it kind of copies that design. Okay, any other comments or questions? Are we ready to continue?
Yep.
Yeah, well,
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
So Dymaxion world map, discovery and development of new cartographic projection system by which humanity can view the map of the whole planet Earth as one world island in one world ocean, without any visible distortion in the relative size and shape of any of the land masses, and without any breaks in the continental contours. This is the undistorted map for studying world problems and displaying in their true proportion resources and other data. Discovered in 1933, published in 1943.
Yeah.
World Game, a grand strategy program developing the grand design of solving all problems with artifacts invented by Salvor or others, which take advantage of all scientific and technological development through studies of their effects of the total world's social and economic affairs as ascertainable from the Dymaxion Sky Ocean World Map, a means of assessing the feasibility of realizing various initiatives and solving world problems, invented in 1927, applied in 1928. This is something that John Butler had brought up just a
can
couple.
we make a comment there?
Please, please.
Okay, can you put together Dymaxion world map and then world game? One is the undistorted snapshot of what it is, right? And the other is now knowing that, using it to really design, to think and design anti-entropically solutions to world problems. Because for as long as you have each one from his cabin just seeing through his hole, you're never going to have a whole picture. And remember, here it's talking about spaceship Earth.
So here's the Dymaxion world map, as he mentions, with one ocean and one kind of broken up landmass.
Yeah, but
So that's a Dymaxion world map. And
Yeah,
those,
That's pretty incredible,
they're
actually.
broken into diamonds, which is, the diamonds are rhombi that are basically the same shapes, except for in the cube octahedron, which is his jitterbug thing. There are squares in the cube octahedron. There are no squares here. These are all rhombus, four-sided, but
That would
four-sided.
fold into a globe, though.
That's right. And they fold into a globe, and they're hinged. They're hinged. So there's a hinged rhombus right there.
That's actually
And
really incredible.
if you look into that, and how will it modify your parlance? I'm talking to that about the common word Eurasia that is used. Is it Eurasia that you see?
Yeah.
You see Asia or Asia Africa. That's the reality.
Hmm.
And that's the physical mass that you have in the oceans. And you're going to have the land mass that you have. And things happening there are going to influence the world in a way you don't know. So our anti-entropic construct are just distorted. Really. I mean, we know very pretty well that you see that desert, that is the biggest in the world. Show again? Yeah.
Mm.
No, the Sahara. Yes. That is one desert.
That's
It's not 2 or 3 deserts. It's one. From that perspective, it is one desert. That take half of Africa, almost half of Africa, and then a good chunk of Asia. Things happening there like locusts and things like that influence the whole world from the point of view of food, from the point of view of air, from the point of view of many, many things.
Now that we have so many advanced developed computer graphics, it would be so fun to be able to just make a cartoon of the nitrogen cycle, the carbon cycle, you know, to start to see the movement of these things as it interrelates with, you know, geography and temperature and wind currents and ocean currents. It's still in my imagination.
Steve, just look at what you've seen there, you've shown there. It shows our stupidity as human. Because what it does is that you see Africa there divided into 1,000 lands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we try to solve our problem on this planet by picking one country in Africa and then say the US and putting them together in relationship. It has no influence. It's just distortion of the flow.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into loss and oblivion with that. The reality is, look at the flow of energy all around the world, as Susan is saying, and see how to use it the best. And it's vain to try to appropriate it. It's just for a while.
Yeah.
In the history of mankind, I've been trying to appropriate that and it hasn't worked.
And basically all these little patches here in Africa are European exploitation. They've made artificial boundaries and tried to claim the resources. This is
Yeah, but in Becky's language, European doesn't exist. African doesn't exist.
yeah, exactly. Well,
It's human. It's human.
Yeah.
You know, how do we organize ourselves?
Yeah.
You can't extinguish one alone. It will take you down too.
Right. I mean, this is the real picture. This is what the astronauts see.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get down here and we see this geopolitical BS. Whew. Yeah.
It is our fundamental problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to continue reading?
Sure. Trends and transformation charts. These depict the total history of all the metallurgical, chemical, electromagnetic, structural, and mechanical trendings to greater performance per given amounts of given materials, time, and energy. A compendium of all the scenarios of science and technology evolving advances. Oh, wait a minute. Did I skip a line there? Hang on. Structural. Okay, yeah. Okay. Chronological chart of total history of scientific discoveries and technical inventions. Chronological chart of the mining of all metals and recirculation of the scrap of those metals. Chronological charts of all major industry performances assessed in terms of per capita human use. These charts begun in 1928, first published in 1937 at Bureau of Standards, Washington, D.C., published in 9 Chains of the Moon, 1938, published in Fortune magazine's 10th anniversary issue, 1940. This issue of Fortune went into 3 printings and took Fortune from red to black ink status. It changed USA and World Economic Health Assessment from a tonnage criteria to one based on energy consumption, which is
Wow.
interesting.
I never heard about that.
Either did I.
And so he's saying in the Fortune magazine was in the red, it was not making money until that document was published, which he'd been working on for 10 years anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that
He was
Fortune
at
started in
one point
1930, I guess.
he was at one point editor of Fortune magazine.
What's that, Manu?
I say Bucky was at one point one of the editors of Fortune magazine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Had no idea.
So I looked up the transformational charts.
You're getting to digital stuff, digital transformation though.
Yeah,
That's completely
I think it's
different.
not saying Buckminster Fuller. I'll say Fuller. Trends and
Now you're still getting digital transformation.
yeah.
Shows you how much digital
I need-
transformation probably
Fortune magazine's 1940 anniversary issue.
Okay,
Good call. You
let's
can't
try
miss
one
next
more
week.
here. Okay, give me that again, Susan.
1940. Buckminster Fuller,
Yeah.
1940.
Fortune magazine, 1940
10th anniversary.
anniversary.
Fuller.
Fortune magazine, 19. Oh, crud. Fortune magazine. Charts. 1940.
Here we go. There we are. First link. First link.
There he is.
Scroll
There's
down.
Buckminster Fuller. You can see his back.
You can see him holding up his jitterbug right here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You scroll down. Oh, I thought he would have the charts in there.
Yeah, well, maybe if I click on it, maybe it'll give me something.
They want to sell.
Yeah, still from 1940. From 1940. Oh, wait a minute.
It is.
Livingry #1. So this might be one of these little things where you get all these separate charts. Here's Livingry #2, tensegrity.
Tensegrity.
Yeah.
Then here's Livingry #3,
We could have just read this.
Dymaxion bathroom.
Yeah, the 250-pound bathroom I'm not sold on yet.
Featuring a fog gun, hot water vapor shower, and waterless composting packaging toilet.
That's it.
When back about in the 80s, I was into a bunch of guys who were into earthships, and we were building straw bale houses and mud houses, and we were doing Starship Earth, Spaceship Earth stuff all over the place. And they were talking about Buckminster Fuller and tetrahedrons and the tetragrammaton and all sorts of stuff. I don't know. I'll put this link out here. And so if anybody is interested, they can look through all 40 of those.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to put the link in the chat.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're ready to continue to read. And let's do that. Sorry, I've got to move this down a little bit. I'm staying at a friend's house, and the friend has cats, and I love cats. and my nose doesn't. Okay.
Okay. So, I have the Dymaxion Omni Transport for land, air, water, surface, and submarine travel. The first full-scale working prototype stage of which was the Dymaxion car, produced to test the crosswind ground taxing behaviors of Omni streamlined, ultimately to be twin orientable jet
Jet
I-
stilts.
jets yeah, orientable jet stilts flown a wingless flying device which would take off and land like an eagle or duck without any prepared landing field, similar in principle to the 40 years later descent and takeoff multi-jet system of the Apollo moon landing craft. That's interesting. Designed in 1927, prototyped in 1933. Geodesic domes, the unlimited size, clear span structures to accommodate both humanity's covering and deploying activities. Invented in 1938, prototyped in 1947. Since then, over 300,000 have been produced and installed around the world from the northernmost Greenland to the exact South Pole. Over 100,000 installed in children's playgrounds. That's interesting. 100,000 were installed in children's playgrounds. I would have thought
Well,
the
it's a fun
military.
thing to climb on. Have you ever seen those domes where you can climb on them?
Monkey bars.
Yeah, yeah.
They're kind of like
So,
monkey bars, except they're built out of triangles.
pretty cool. Octant truss. Anybody have any
Ah.
problems with that?
So that's what you would use. The truss is they're structured components, and you put in the bars to make a geodesic dome. It's the truss, because what you're doing is the whole idea is it's a clear span. So all the structural elements are in the walls and the dome itself. There's nothing in the middle.
Interesting.
It's the umbrella stuff, right?
Mhm. Like the ribs on an umbrella.
These are the images that come up for octet truss right there. These are images. And then we go back to all.
But show it again. Show that picture, Steve. What do you see?
Yeah, these are, they are over there, but they're right here. I'll go back to them.
You see octagons put together. Look
Yeah,
at it. The octagons put facing is like a DNA or something.
there's your standard double tetrahedron with the implied octahedron in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Same thing with this. 3D printers would love doing this stuff today.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
CAD image of the octet truss lattice constructed by 3D packing. Ah, well, there you go.
But you see that in actual fact, it is two tetrahedra coming orthogonally to each other,
Right.
right? And then you put the skin on the vertexes that are out, but
Yeah.
solid inside, like an umbrella. That is integrity. It is solid. The trusses is the implied or the octahedron that you see in Steve.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to our thing. Any other comments or questions on that?
Can you put that again? What you had there on the chat?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, that link?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the, well, let me back
It's a
up.
ResearchGate paper.
Little
Interesting.
source. Let me put
Yeah.
this. Okay, here we go. I'll put the link in. Okay.
So the flooring or roofing structure for unlimited spanning, designed in 1933, prototyped in 1949. The fog gun.
I got to do this. I mean,
You gotta.
fog gun. There it is, man. This is kind of like Elon Musk's flaming flamethrower.
You know what? With the
Mr.
water
Fuller,
shortages in Arizona, maybe I ought to look into one.
With what? With the what? Water shortage?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's got to be. Buckminster Fuller was all about efficiency, right?
that's
So
right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can buy one.
I'm
Pardon?
sure. I'd be surprised if you couldn't.
I just want, yeah, but you can do it with some warm water, maybe get one with soap, one without.
Here it is. All spray straight fog gun.
Oh,
There's the one you're looking for, Susan.
all right. I'm thinking that means, when I was in Papua New Guinea, we had the 1 gallon shower and then we had the 5 gallon shower.
Ah,
You put the tea warmer in the water that you collected from the rain, and then you'd use the pulley to lift it up, and there was an opening thing on the bottom to let little drizzle out. 5 gallons was luxury.
Wow. It's pretty amazing actually when you start to think about these tools. If everybody did adopt them, how efficient would we be?
this looks like a standard sprayer that's used now all over the place. I wonder if Bucky's idea was the forerunner of that. I'll bet it was. And I wonder if his estate got any of the patented royalties.
Bucky was very good about patents. What I remember him writing was that it was important just to be able to, defend his ideas and to lay a chronology of ideas, but also because he wasn't going to go work for a company.
Yeah.
Can't hear you, Susan.
He wasn't going to go work for a company. Is that what you heard?
Yeah.
Didn't hear, I guess.
A fog gun, a fog generator, or smoke machine is a device that appears similar to a fog or smoke. The artificial fog. I was just wondering who. Oh, here we go. Who oh, sheet. Let me go back there. I was wondering if Buckminster Fuller was given credit for who created the fog machine. No. Anyway, I hate to go too far off of.
Let's write down. That's the second one down. Is Buckminster Fuller's fog gun.
Oh, there we go. Buckminster Fuller's fog gun, and it was a device that uses compressed air. There it is. Designed in 1927. Prototyped in 49.
Yeah, it says here in the stuff in the book, designed 1933. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Less than a pint per day per family, not person, per family.
To take a shower?
For a family, pint per day. Yeah.
Is that what it said?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Less than a pint per day for family.
I wonder how big the family is.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
Probably a family of 4, right? I would assume.
That would be your Disneyland family. Yeah.
Water is in crisis all over the world, and
No, it's a real concern. At some point, we're going to have to be much more wise with how we use our water. In fact, we're already at that point.
Yeah.
An allegedly satisfying shower takes approximately a cup of water.
I don't know.
I think it's more than that.
How do you stand in
Really in real life, a cup. Okay.
How do you stand in 102 degree water for 15 minutes and use a half a cup of water?
Yeah.
Whoops. I guess.
Oh, just even think about how much drinkable water the United States flushes down the toilet, literally.
Yeah.
That's a major problem. The inefficiencies, the price inefficiencies that come along with it. We grow things like alfalfa in the desert to feed cattle.
Yeah,
because water is so cheap.
I'm gonna
Um,
put, I'm gonna put
only
that,
in California.
yeah, exactly.
I'm putting the fog gun link in the chat. So if anybody wants to go more on that, they can. Okay, are we continue, ready to read?
Yeah, the pneumatic, paraneumatic means of cleaning human body dishes, clothing, etc., without plumbing. I can't see that word. Pipe.
Sorry.
Yeah. Piped in water supply, designed in 1927, prototyped in 1949. Compact odorless toilet equipment for conversion of human wastes into methane gas and fertilizer, designed in 1928, proven in India, now being refined for production use. I don't know how
What's that?
I don't know how much that is taken off, or
Yeah, well,
Hoisting toilets are big, big stuff, man.
are
Yeah.
they?
The tiny houses that I like, that's my guilty pleasure, as I get like 10, 15 minutes of YouTube tiny house videos.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Carbon blocks inserted copper disc brakes, invented and successfully demonstrated at Phelps Dodge, 1937. Bunsen burner melted water cooled centrifuge for processing low grade tin ore, invented and successfully demonstrated at Phelps Dodge, 1937. Hanging bookshelves and other furniture invented in 1928, prototyped in 1930. Modeling all geometric developments of synergetic geometry, including tensegrity models of all geometrical structures and hierarchy of primitive structural systems. The minimum all space filling module, the foldable 7 unique great circle models, the tetrahelixes discovered in 1927 and demonstrated in 1936.
Does anybody know what the foldable 7 unique great circle models are?
No, that's why I stopped.
Well, let's see. I've been putting these links in the chat, so
This is going to take a lot of this.
I mean,
I
if
didn't
somebody's
realize.
interested, they can.
No, I mean, there's a lot to learn here.
This is way cooler than, because last time I just read through it, boom.
Well, good.
You
This
can't
is
miss
my
it. You can't
style.
miss any more Saturdays. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I have to go see a Viking band. I bought tickets like literally a year ago.
Okay.
I wish you were here. I would take you.
I'll be there in spirit.
Okay. I'll
So
send you a
here-
music video.
Yeah, just send us one pic. Let's see.
These are the foldable circles. That's not, these are the images. Here's the articles relating to it.
Yeah.
And we come up with these things. Super circles.
Wow, CJ's blog
What?
came up.
Did it really? There it is, CJ Fernley, right. Geez, they came up as the first ever loving resource on Google. You can tell CJ that he's famous. And so this goes into explaining a lot of stuff, I presume. And there's the jitterbug, and here must be the folding circles.
Mhm.
And since tetrahedron,
CJ did all this.
yeah, this is CJ's PDF.
Jeez.
Joe spends a lot of time doing meetups with CJ.
Doing what?
He spends a lot of time doing meetups with CJ. I think you do one a week with him or 2 a week, don't you?
Yeah, we talk. Well, we talk regularly, and almost weekly.
So this is a big description where CJ Fernley goes into this. I'll put this in the
Wow.
in the link too. He really goes through it in major stuff. Manu, you would blow your mind over this page right here. This will keep
You
you
would
busy,
love CJ Mano.
and this will keep you busy
This
for
is
15 minutes.
way there.
No, you would love him on Manu. You would love his math counts group. You would love everything about him.
So I just stuck that link in the chat.
Wow.
Okay. Where are we now?
I don't know.
Bunsen burner melted cold water centrifuge. Didn't we do that?
Yeah, we did that. We did.
And then
The
triangulated.
yeah, framing. Oh no, we didn't do the ocean.
Okay.
We didn't do the twin hull rowing and sailing devices either.
Okay.
So yeah, okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
Twin hull rowing and sailing devices invented in 1938, prototyped in 1954. Triangular geodesic framing of ocean sailing hulls invented in 1948, successfully demonstrated IOR racing,
Yeah. Sloop.
Sloop imp 1979.
Yeah.
That's some kind of I don't know.
I mean, we can framing of ocean sailing hulls. So, I mean, we could do a real quick check on twin hull rowing and sailing devices. We could do a real quick check on that if this is inspiring anybody. I just keep opening up more.
See.
Which I was a little bit faster with my fingers, folks.
Okay.
Images for twin hull rowing and sailing devices. Twin hull.
That's kind of what I had envisioned.
Yeah, I think they're like.
Can you show the hull?
I don't know. I'm looking for a picture of the hull. So these are twin hulled right here. They're more like pontoon type things.
Like a catamaran almost.
Yeah, like a catamaran. Exactly right. Here it is. There's a rowing device right there. And I think if they would turn this one over, double slide seat sculling. I don't think this is twin hulled.
No.
There's an inner and an outer hull, and there's a space in between, or does it mean two catamarans?
I think that it means that there's a space in between, but I don't think it has to be as far apart as a catamaran. There's one right there. Eco 5, Power Cat, small boats.
Okay, this one, yes. It has twin hulls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
And then the cabin kind of floats up above it.
Yes.
So the
So
cabin.
you have the two
hulls.
hulls. Yeah, that one is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it doing by doing that? Is it minimizing friction?
I don't know. That's what I was kind of wondering.
Because you have now, normally instead of having friction on two, because the hull normally split the flow around the boat into two. Now it's split into four, and there are four friction. So maybe the size, like the friction that you have had on two faces is now split between four faces. Maybe by doing that, there is some exponential decrease of the friction. Maybe.
I agree. There's reduced drag because the boat's not so wide. It's more like running a knife through the water than it is running a jar through the water. So this is showing how they're built. So there's one hull.
And that the other one.
There's the
Yeah.
other hull.
Yeah.
And then we build the cabin on top of it so that it doesn't create any drag on the water. It reduces the drag because the hull is not so wide. There you go. That's a double hull.
You are basically combing the water.
Yeah.
You see, a black hair is king, right? Our hair is king. I don't have hair now,
Yeah.
but the comb that we use, a comb that look like that.
Yeah.
So that you fork that, you put that into the hair and you move it.
Yeah. And there's less resistance.
So the hair, the friction of the hair by the coiling is split between the gaps
Right.
and then helps to kind of strengthen, to clear the hair.
I'll put this link in the chat too, if anybody wants to see how to build a twin hull boat.
Yeah.
All right, and then let's get back to our reading.
I'm
Do
very
that.
eager to get to that.
Maybe we'll do
little
that next
highlight.
weekend. No.
I want us to at least touch on that before next week.
Touch on what next week, Manu?
The highlight. I learned very early and painfully.
The highlight of what?
On the
Highlights
text.
and text.
Oh, okay. Well, this is something Susan highlighted, so she was wanting us to look at.
Yes, definitely. I'm very, it's very, that paragraph, at least before we go.
All right, we'll do that
will
right
be
now.
Very interesting.
That was 2017, the last time we were in this together. That's from our Slack channel.
You know, he just
Oh.
outlined all these inventions, and it looks like he's starting into discourse again here. This might be a good time to pause, to stop, and pick it up right from here next week.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, let's finish this paragraph.
And Manu wants that paragraph.
Allow
Yeah,
that
I
paragraph.
want
Let's
that
get this
paragraph.
going, Manu. Okay, go
All
for
right.
it. Joe.
Well, hang on. Triangular geodesic framing of ocean sailing hulls invented. All right, in 1948, successfully demonstrated. All right, I read that. Okay. Very frequently, I hear or read of my artifacts adjudged by critics as being failures because I did not get them into mass production and make money with them. Such money making as criteria of success, critics do not realize that money making was never my goal. I learned very early and painfully that you have to decide at the outset whether you are trying to make money or to make sense, as they are mutually exclusive. I saw that nature has various categories of unique gestation lags between conception of something and its birth. In humans, conception to birth is 9 months. In electronics, it is 2 years between inventive conception and industrialized production. In aeronautics, it is 5 years between invention and operating use. In automobiles, it is 10 years between conception and mass production. In railroading, the gestation is 15 years. In big city skyscraper construction, the gestational lag is 25 years. For instance, it was 25 years between the accidental falling of a steel bar into fresh cement and the practical use of steel reinforced concrete in major buildings. Did not know that. Dependent on the size and situation of the period, dependent on the size and situation, the period of gestation in the single family residences varies between 50 and 75 years.
Okay, that's a good place to pause. And then I'll put a little highlight right there. I'll put a little highlight right here. And that will tell us, because of these lags, that's where we're going to start next week. And I'm very excited about that. That concludes our call for today, I think. Any other conversations before we end? Anybody want to comment on all of that? Okay, really good, really good. Anne, how are you feeling and what's your takeaway today? Your microphone's off.
Thank you. Okay, I've been very quiet today. I know. I think what I'm going to do is after this, it's going to be a lot of research to check into all the things that he has invented. Yeah. And I'm very interested in the one where he talks about furniture, you know. I mean, we looked at all the other things that he came up with, and there he has designing furniture. And I'm going to see what came out from his mind, yeah, as to what it considers furniture that is efficient and I guess it's efficient and functioning. Yeah, that's where Bucky comes from, and then and the science that wraps behind all this. Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to checking those out. Yeah, and just for everybody here, I think this month I can only be in one more week, and the rest of the time there's something going on every Sunday. Because of school reopening in January is our intake, and there's a lot going on every Sunday with open days and so on. But on the 18th, I'll be in South Africa, you know, so I'll be probably in the the safari somewhere. So I'm not sure if we have access to bandwidth. Okay, so I'll come back after that. But December we are mostly off for the month, right, Steve? Am I right in saying that?
I don't know. It's up to the group what they want to do. What's our normal procedure, guys, in the holidays?
We go, we've been taking 1 month off. We'll be going to the 15th of December and restarting mid-January. That's what we did last year.
I think last year I was
Okay.
out the whole month of December just because work got so crazy. But
We have the holidays in the US. We have Thanksgiving at the end of November. But in the world, you guys don't care. So are you saying we're going to end around December 15th? Is that what you're saying?
Suggestion,
I
we
think
take
we
a
play it by
month
ear.
break. Pardon?
There's
Play it
our
by ear.
calendar. There's our calendar for December. We could maybe do the 3rd. And then leave off the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. And then start up again. Do we want to start up on January 7th or January 14th?
Okay, so we're planning to end the year 4th of December, is it? Okay, I can't make that day either. We have open days. I'm speaking, that's why.
Where are you speaking, Anne?
Yes, it's our school open day, addressing parents and inquiries and all that. So it's a crazy time.
What day is that?
Like Sundays. One of the Sundays is our kindergarten opening, you know, in down in KL and so on.
So are we suggesting our last one's going to be December 3rd and then we won't pick up again until January 7th? Or maybe
I was saying December 11th.
you want to go to December 11th, 10 and
I
11?
think so. And then we have a month, a calendar month. And we
Okay.
pick it up again on January 14th.
January
Okay.
4th.
I
So
can
our
do that.
last- So our last will be December 10th. And then after the first of the year,
Be January 14th. That kind of works for me because I'm coming back.
okay, we have our calendar set. Thank you, Anne, for being the stimulation on that, for being the cause of everything. All right, good.
Most welcome. Just don't want to miss. Okay, noted.
Okay, so if you want to continue then with how you're feeling and what's your takeaway?
Yeah, actually that would be my takeaway. And I think there's going to be a lot more reading before I can wrap my head around quite a number of things that he talked about. So I'm going to spend a bit of time listening for a while. Okay.
And by the way,
And,
Anne, I put a link to Buckminster Fuller Furniture. in the chat. It's right there for you if you want to click on it before you go. And that'll give you the Google beginning. Okay.
I'll save it. All right. Thank you. And Susan, how do you feel and what is your takeaway?
Well, I feel very pleased to be in this book. I kind of took it as a kind of a consolidation recap of Bucky's perspective on the world the last time I was through. And I think just, more time over material is going to lead to mastery. So hopefully one of these days I'll feel even more comfortable and fluent in Bucky. But I just love seeing the world in terms of possibilities. And I know when we were starting, Steve was saying like how terrible things are running around in our society with elections. And I got to tell you, I pretty much don't watch the news on purpose because in my little corner of the universe, it's pretty damn nice. And I think I need to I'm going to vote. I wish I had far more choices, but I will participate. But I just think me being positive is better than me being up to date in some ways. So hopefully, as we learn how to take, some of these ideas, who knows? I'm going to take that fog gun and I'm going to send it to my daughter, who's doing a master's in sustainability right now, and see if we can.
Is she really? Wow.
Figure out if we can get some traction. Who knows? Maybe I will have one in my house in Phoenix. And when you guys come, it'll be one of the options when you visit. You get 1 cup of water, head on back. So Manu, how do you feel and what are you taking away?
I really feel grateful, thankful, for all the energy around and for the participation and contribution. But mostly, I see this as really something that is very, very current. It reminds us of the challenges that we have, and also put us right to task to use that experience of his to design for a better world. And that's what I see into this. I mean, there are all of those tools. By the way, Anne was asking about Becky's furniture. What Joe showed the other day is part of Becky's, is an application of all of these principles that he's talking about. You remember the micro, I don't know, was it Joe who showed it? Yeah, all of these furniture that you could convert into beds.
Oh yes, yeah. I was actually just talking to somebody about that.
But
that's what we're talking about.
I was thinking about that as we were reading.
Yes. Sorry. And all the challenges that we have, and the problems of debt, problems of food, problems of environment, all of these things. He touched on them. He touches on them in this little book. And I'm really looking forward that we go through it and then we link it to Utopia or Oblivion. And I think we come out of all these two really better equipped to help around. Help ourselves and help around. That's the way, that's what I expect. That's what I take away. So, Joe, how do you feel? What do you take away?
I feel good. I mean, I just actually had a moment where I smiled there, and that really felt good. What I think about when I was reading about all these inventions that Bucky has come up with and these great ideas is that you do have to sit there and wonder, why didn't they make it into production, into mass production? And not as necessarily as a money-making exercise. It's not about that. It's not about money. It's about just, why didn't these things get adopted? And I think that you start to uncover certain truths about the world. And what happens is you really start to have to, I think it's a call to think about how we can actually really design a better world, and really in an implementable way. There are ways to do it. Bucky's inventions are some of these ways to solve the water crisis. That's just one problem that it would solve. Solve a housing crisis to a certain degree. And so when you think about these things, these solutions, now we just have to think about how to make them scale. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, again, I don't, money just doesn't have to be part of the equation. It just has to, it's energy. And you certainly don't want to go, you just can't waste it. But these ideas are something that can be implemented. And I think we just have to figure out and think about ways to do them incrementally. And I think that this book will ultimately have us asking questions, really important questions about Bucky's inventions. So that's what I got from tonight. Thank you, everybody. Steve, back to you. How do you feel? What'd you get out of today?
Well, I'm really honored to be with you guys, and I'm honored to be the guy to push the buttons, and I hope I'm pushing the buttons fast enough. What really is exciting is that I'm seen to be with people who want to hang out and kind of look at these ideas for 3 minutes and not just rush through the paragraph and get the book read, being able to sit and ponder. And while we were talking, I pondered composting toilets, and I can buy one for $1,000 to $1,500. And I won't have to use the water supply. I purposely, I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I use, I have an old saying. It says, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. I don't know if you've heard that, but I'm a big promoter of that concept. And that some people could use 5 gallons a day flushing urine down a toilet. It just boggles my mind at the total lack of accountability that kind of functioning is about. I talk to people. I have a friend who's roaming around in France. He's an American guy, can't speak any French, but he's gone to France and he's become one of the yellow vest guys about total democracy. We don't need politicians. We can vote on our phone. We can just decide what we want to do right here in our little community right now. And, I discuss them and say, look, dude, you can try and you're an anarchist, dude. You don't want any government. And that won't work if there is no personal accountability. It will not work if there's no personal responsibility. And until every human being is willing to be personally accountable for their situation, why am I here and what am I doing with my resources? Until every human being gets the idea of ephemeralization, doing more with less. Most people don't think about that. They think of they have 3 jobs and they're trying to, the present situation has dropped everything on them. They're trying to handle all those things instead of looking, saying, okay, what's important? Not what's urgent, what's important. And I'm going to choose to focus my energy on what is important. I don't care about the rest. I love the fact that I have a community here of people who at least are willing to have that conversation with me. I'm honored and thrilled. And I'm going to hate it in December when we don't have any more calls.
Me too.
This is my family.
Hang on.
But then I got to spend time with my family too, right? And so, and particularly, I really miss it when you're not here. I know you're doing important stuff, but if Manu weren't here, there'd be a big black hole. I think if any one of us weren't here, there'd be a black hole in our conversation. And so it's really wonderful that we're here and that we have Julian and we have Nelson and we have, John Butler's been here and we have others who are flashing in and out. And that's really important. So I think I'll send out an extra email and just tell everybody when our last call for the year is going to be. So that if anybody wants to jump in before the holiday season and participate, that would be good. Remind them we're doing a new book, and it would be really well. I'm grateful
Yeah.
for each of you guys. I'm grateful for each of you guys and your patience with me, and for the privilege that I have of doing all
Mhm.
this.
That's it.
Thank you.
And we definitely need to somehow check into with Kelly as well.
Yeah, I think the last communication we got from Kelly was through Wayne. It was like 3
Right.
weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. And that Kelly's doing fine, but he still doesn't have his energy back. And
Mhm.
getting on these calls is just too demanding on his ability to focus, and it frustrates him more than it helps him out. And so things are getting better. He's getting better, and one of these days he wants to be on the call. But I'm
Oh, yeah.
sure if it were me, I'd be totally frustrated because I have this huge image of the potential of this call and not be able to contribute to it and guide it, be that trim tab making it go. It would be real frustrating for me. So I can empathize with him. And by the way, he was the one who suggested that we do design discipline. And so he did trim tab our conversations for the last 3 months. And then Manu has suggested this Grunch book, which seems to be a perfect follow-up, a 20-year recap, a 20-year relook at what Bucky said in Oblivion. So I'm grateful for that, for you, for that, Manu. Okay, guys, I'm complete. See you
Cool.
all next week.
I
Take care.
Hey.
Bye.
Those of you who can come next week, yeah, no obligation.
Susan, thanks for the PDF. All
Sure.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the PDF.
Fantastic.
It was great.
Yep. Thanks, Susan.
thank you.
Bye-bye all.
Bye.